today we got to play Sagani. I don't know much about this game except its style placement. But before we get into it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell because board games are amazing, and that's what we do here at Legends of Nirvana. Now, Randy, can you tell us a little bit more about this? Now, this is a pretty new release, right?
Yes and no. It was originally released in 2020, and this is a re-release that was done as a Kickstarter bundle with the Pergamon and Harmonia. And this one is the one that attracted me to the bundle to begin with, because the designer, as we get to it, is UA Rosenberg, who is one of our favorite designers. So this being a puzzle game by UA, it wasn't something we're typically used to. So, although I would argue for us, Agricola is pretty much a puzzle game. But anyway, Sagani is 2020 original release. It was just recently re-released as part of the Kickstarter. It was a re-implementation of Habitats. It has a Board Game Geek rating of 7.2 and a Board Game Geek rank of 1911. It's 1 to 4 players, 30 to 60 minutes in length. Age 8 and up, which we were able to play this with Sarah without problems.
She almost won, didn't she?
She almost won.
She kicked her butt.
When we played...
I don't talk about it. We'll discuss this
We'll discuss it in a moment. But yeah, there was some mistakes made the first time we played. One small important line in the rulebook that was missed. But anyway, designed again by UA Rosenberg, who's made many of our favorite games. Art is by Lucas Seguin, published by originally Skellig Games, I guess. They're still affiliated with it, but Eagle-Gryphon is the one who re-released this. It is available at several places. For the MSRP on this is $39.99, which to me is a little pricey for what you get. But it's available on Game Steward for that price, which, again, they usually mark things up. In this case, they got a bundle package deal when you bought the Kickstarter, so I could see why they're probably just charging MSRP. Eagle's selling it on their site for $39.99. And then, oddly, one that you don't hear from me very often, Funnigan Games, actually has it for $35.99. It's the cheapest I see it. I don't see it on Miniature Market or Card House. So, right now, if you're wanting this game, you're going to probably be paying close to MSRP for it. And that's pretty much all I have to tell you on it.
Okay. All right. So now let's talk about the quality of components. So you do get pretty standard cardboard tiles. However, they do have linen finish. They are really good thickness as far as that's concerned. You do get cardboard chips.
Yes, these were an add-on that was not in the original Kickstarter or the game.
Because most people don't get negatives.
Unless you play the ultra hard mode we decided to accidentally play.
Well, we'll talk about maybe some alternative rules later on in the game. And then you obviously get your little circles that are just wooden bits. Color palette was kind of...
Yeah, it's drab, drab, and drab. You can play as white, gray, black, or brown. Was it Azul?
Yeah, there was one of the Azuls. It's later on. I did not appreciate the crappy color choices, but it is very clear on the board because your tiles are very, very colorful. Well, the 4 colors that, one is not a color.
One's white, so the white on white doesn't really work too well, but in general, yes.
Okay, so overall, quality of components, I feel like slightly better Catan because the tiles are probably better quality.
They do have the linen finish. It's
5.5 is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's probably the highest I'm going to give it. There's not that much to it as far as this game, but yeah, it does have a central board. It's also linen finished, and it's got wooden circles and wooden stop signs, I guess, almost stop signs for score markers.
Yeah. So, all right. Now let's talk about the theme. Is there one?
There's like strange looking creatures.
Well, I think they're spirits.
Yeah, so it says here, welcome to Sagani, where achieving harmony between the natural elements of earth, water, fire, and air is the central goal of the spirits that populate this world. These spirits spend most of their time in their vessel-like dwellings, but when the elements are put in balance, the spirits emerge from their vessels and show themselves to their full form. So basically, they're in these little capsules, and we're trying to rescue them out.
So basically, there's not a theme.
No, it's layered on. It's an abstract.
I mean, not quite, but kind of.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I think it would fall under the category of abstract.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, I like the cute little art in the back. Like, the tiles have the little monsters that you're saving. Are you supposed to flip these over when you're done?
Possibly.
That would make a lot more sense.
But they start out that way anyway. You shuffle the deck with them face down. The strength of the tile tells you how many arrows to expect when you're playing. But
that would have helped me realize that they were done.
Yeah, you could certainly do that.
All right, so now let's then talk about what we would give it for theme. There isn't one. I'd say it's even less than Catan 4 for theme, except for the cute little people in the back.
Yeah, I mean, in many cases with abstracts, you generally abstain from theme just because, but it does have a cute art. So from an art perspective, I like the art better on this than Catan. I'll give it a 6 for that reason. But it's really irrelevant to the gameplay. It's an abstract. It's kind of themeless.
Yeah. All right. So then let's talk about actual rule book. We're not going to talk about how Randy's reading of the rules.
Yeah, my reading of the rules would have gotten a 2 on this one. Because the rule book isn't bad. It's actually 8 pages long. It's got a nice cover, which
if you read them.
It's got very pretty art on it.
Yeah, if you read the rules.
I did read the rules. I just missed a little blurb that seemed to be minor until we actually played it. So, yes, because it's a simple game. There's not a whole lot you can screw up. Unless you're me. So you're basically just drawing tiles and drafting them, and then you're playing them into your tableau. So it's really simple, except for some placement rules that we decided...
you didn't think was necessary.
Well, it just because it's not in the main text. It's in a side banner that just says, remember, in big bright red, important... It's the only red thing in the entire book, as a matter of fact. It's very, very important.
So what would you give it a score-wise for the rule book?
And actually it does specify the flip the tiles. So, it doesn't really impact the gameplay other than it helps you see clearly that they've escaped.
Yeah.
So, given the fact that the rule book is done well, I mean, it's layered and sectioned nicely. There's shouldn't be any confusion in this game if you pay attention, and if you don't hate the color red as much as I do. So apparently, because I've completely ignored the 2 red bars, it's a fairly straightforward game. I'm going to go ahead and give this an 8. I think it does a great job. I don't think I did a great job. This is definitely on me because when we get into the gameplay here, you're going to find it's much simpler if you play by the rules.
Versus what you... Anyway.
But, yes.
All right. So basically what ends up happening is that you are trying to build a tableau. But first we're going to start out, no matter how many players that you have, and it plays up to 4.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You're going to start with 5 tiles at the center.
Well, that's not necessarily true. Solo is potentially different, but we don't play solo.
When you play with peoples.
2 to 4 player. Okay.
So, so you have these 5, and you're going to start building your tableau. The first time, you're pretty much don't know what you're doing, so I'm just going to pick a tile. So then, mine has 4 different arrows that it has to follow. So I will be placing 4 of my cubes on here. Not cubes, but cylinders. All right, and then Randy's going to choose one.
So, yeah, I like blue, so I'll choose a blue one. And then I would do the same thing, putting 3 of mine, because this one only has 3 arrows on it. But hers is worth 10 points if she finishes it, whereas mine's only worth 6.
So now I have a little bit of direction of where I'm going. So basically, and this is what's relevant, you want to place tiles, because you'll see there's an arrow, essentially, and you want to be able to place this one. So for example, I have a blue arrow going this way. So I want a blue arrow at any point.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be directly connected. That's the mistake we made. And it made this game tremendously difficult because you have a set number of discs during the game. And if you run out of discs, they have penalty discs that you take that are worth negative victory points. And Miranda tried to collect them all. She thought they were Pokemon, I think. So she had a ton of negative points because whenever you place them, it's easy to mess up. If you're trying to connect them directly to the tile, to mess up where you can't place it and block something that you thought you were going to score with. Much harder game that way. I personally enjoyed it. I think partly because I was watching you lose badly.
It was so miserable.
But
I mean, and here's the thing, though. If you really do want to advance, you can play it that way.
Well, it's not in the rules that way. It's not. It's completely a house rule if you do that, because it was not the way it's intended. But yeah, it's much easier game if you play it the way it's intended, which is it doesn't matter where that tile falls as long as it's in line of sight of the tile. Even if there's tiles of the arrow. So in this case, there's an orange directly, but in some cases, like this one, you've got a green arrow that's pointing to a green tile all the way over here. There's ones in between, doesn't matter. As long as the arrow is in the direction of the tile, it can be covered. And the goal is to uncover the central section of that tile so that you can score the points. So once you moved all your discs to the arrow, that frees up the discs. You can reuse them.
Yeah. So if I were to play, for example, on this board, trying to think, I need a red here. So we'll just put a red here. I'm going to look. It doesn't really matter, but I will place the 4 there. Okay. And that one does apply. Doesn't. Okay, so those 3 there. But this one over here, it follows here. So now that this is
complete. It would have to be here for that one to complete. That's the diagonal.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I didn't see it. All right, and then that one finishes up. Then those are completed, and these go back in my thing. Now...
And you would flip this, apparently.
Yes. Now, here's the sad thing, though. Sometimes what ends up happening is, you mentioned that, using all of these, and you end up with red tokens.
Yeah. Yeah, you can easily get in a situation where if you take a lot of the 10-pointers and tie up a lot of your discs on tiles, it can be a real problem, and you can run out of those, and you'll have to take the penalty discs. Now, the good news is the penalty discs add to your population of discs, so you're less likely to run out again. But the bad news is they're each one worth -2 victory points, and you generally, if you get a tile, you're going to have to play another 3 to 4 discs. There's a couple that are 1, a couple that are 2s, but a lot of them are 3s and 4s. You're going to end up placing more discs, and you might run out again. And that's
but here's the thing, though. Like, when you play it the right way, it's not as hard.
It's much easier to get your discs back when you play it the correct way. Yes. When we played it the correct way, we never ran out of discs.
Yeah. So there's that. That's pretty much... Oh, and then you keep on playing, so you'll use up all 5. And so the thing is with using 5, whenever, obviously, there's an... that way it shifts the person who's getting the full 5, so that helps. So you don't really... Other than that, you don't really have to pay attention to...
you alternate taking, so each of you will get 2 in the case of a 2-player game. There will be a 5th one, so the person who took the first one will end up with a 5th one, and they get to choose whether they want to keep it, or they can put it onto the top of the scoreboard. There's 4 slots. And if that fills up over time, if they decide 4 people decide they don't want the tiles, they put them in the central area, then that will become a intermission round, intermezzo they call it, and you break, and then everybody can choose to draft one of those tiles based upon your score from lowest score to highest score. And you can choose whichever tile you want. So maybe you didn't like the tile you got when you had to place one, but you can choose maybe one of the other ones is better for you, or by now it may have become relevant that you need one of those.
So overall, talking about, the game ends basically, depending on player count, a certain amount of victory points. 4 players, 45, 3 at 60, 2 is 75. Or if you run out of tiles, or...
That's just tiles.
Just tiles. Score-wise, it's a lot easier playing the right way.
Yes.
I may would have said something different last night because I had special thoughts and feelings about being in the negative victory points on a puzzle game. That is not normally what happened, but it did. It was a disaster. No,
I actually enjoyed it more. I was enjoying it immensely watching you struggle.
It was so bad.
Because normally puzzle games you think are your thing, and you
I do really good.
No, you do very well.
I do very well, but this one was rough. Well, I think the first couple of times
I gotta say, I think I enjoyed it almost as much as when I beat you badly in Agricola, which doesn't happen that often. So when it does happen, I have to savor the moment.
Because sometimes it just doesn't work out. All right. But giving it a score, I think it's playing the right way. I think it's a pretty good puzzle game. I think Sarah can play this. I could see us playing that. I could see my mom liking it. I could see a lot of people enjoying a different puzzle game because it is a little bit different. Trying to build this network. So for me, I'm probably going to get a 7. I think it was all right. I think it was fine.
Yeah. No, I like this. Actually, I think I like it a little bit better than you because I like the puzzle of the arrows and trying to figure out how to place them strategically to get as many discs back at once. I mean, it feels very satisfying when you complete like 3 tiles at once and you get all those discs back at once. I got like 18 points in one turn by completing 3 6-pointers and got all those discs back and jumped up on the scoreboard, by twice, your score at that point.
You had 18. Yeah, you got 18 points.
But then you came back with 2 big 10-pointers and ended up coming up within 1 point of me at the end of the game. So it was very close.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like the fact that there's that tension back and forth. And the score can change in a matter of moments. And
well, what's funny is the last draw, if there had been a white one, I would have beaten you because I had a 10-pointer ready, but I just needed a white tile and I didn't have it. Mm-hmm. So there is a little bit of luck
in
because
the sense
depending on the tiles, and then sometimes you're like, I just need a blue to finish this. There's no blue, right? And it's just like
I will say it's going to be different slightly based upon player count because with 2 players, there's 5 out there. You can kind of plan both of the tiles you're getting. With 4 players, you're only getting 1 tile. Or 2 if you're the person that dealt it potentially, but you still have much less control over what tiles you're getting, at that point. So I think it was easier with 2 players than it would be with 4. So I think it's a slightly different experience. Either way, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it even the way we played wrong. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a 7.5, I think. It's just slightly, I think, a little bit higher than yours.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We had an absolute blast today, and hopefully you'll come hang out with us again. Catch you guys later. Bye.